You're watching Leafs Morning Take with host Nick Alberga and former NHLer Jay Rosehill. The show starts now.
Well, folks, we have some new playoff merch, but you better buy it pretty quickly. It's Nick Alberga, Jay Rosehill, the Wednesday edition of Leafs Morning Take, presented by Bet365. Why are you smirking, Rosie?
Just picturing people getting merch and the Leafs getting beat out before they get it. I like it, though, dude. Look at that logo. That's us.
Yeah.
That's our creative genius coming through. I dig it.
We're pumped about it. But again, similar to last year, we launched our very first set of playoff merch, and it didn't last very long. So here's to a longer run with Now We Go as our slogan.
Now we go. I like it. It's just crazy how you can be so high on a team and they can just do this great thing in the last 10 games and be leading this, that, whatever. And then they just have a performance against someone that matters that just makes you feel sick to your stomach. And I think that's all of Leafs Nation right now, who's paying attention. It's quite wild, this team and what they can do.
That's very eloquently put, but probably correct. Our Super Chat charity partner this season is Sick Kids. Want to make sure their question or comment gets on the show. Hit us up with a Super Chat. Proceeds from our Super Chat will go to Sick Kids, ranked the #1 research-intensive children's hospital in Canada and 3rd in the world. I think the other thing, too, is that we're fresh off a stint on TLN After Dark last night with Zach Phillips, and I truly feel like his aura, his emotion rubs off on us, because after you go in that car wash of TLN After Dark, I just got a different feel to me. I don't know if you feel the same way.
Well, I was trying to fight it. I mean, I had my little go last week about sticking behind this team and being, appreciative of the era we're in and backing them and being positive. And I still am that way. But when the one team that you want to prove that you can beat, and it wasn't like a blowout, I get it, but you just watch them in every facet of the game, just chasing and just a step behind. Like, it was complete manhandle. It was boys against men last night, and it bothers me because that bloody team is always in the way. And I've said it on After Dark, I'll say it here. They're the last team in the NHL I'd want to play in the playoffs. The last one out of the 31 other teams. They're the last one I'd want to play. Just the way they play brings out the worst in the Maple Leafs, and they revert back to completely the wrong style of hockey. Like, the Panthers do everything right, just working their bags off, going and forechecking, just buying into just nonstop over and over again. And then the Leafs revert back to, well, I guess I'll dipsy doodle and see how that works for me. It's wild. And I want to avoid them at all costs.
No, that's fair. And it reminds me a lot of Mighty Ducks D2. As you know, it's my favorite movie of all time. Early on in that movie where Team USA plays Iceland, they're like, we can't beat them. But then you know what happens? The championship game, they change their jerseys at the end. They go full Ducks and they end up beating Iceland. But it's got that feel like Florida's Iceland, and unfortunately, Canada. The Leafs are the Ducks / Team USA, and it's just they can't beat these guys right now. It's insane. I know they beat them last week. We talked about this. You add Barkov back to that lineup, much different looking team, isn't it?
Well, to Chuck and Bennett that were out last night as well. It's they don't even have their full complement. And I don't know. I agree with what, Zach said last night. You look at the McKinnons of the world, and, you look at Crosby and just the guys that have won, and they just won't accept defeat. They just further brow and they just bear down and they just make stuff happen because they're great. And I just would like to see that on this roster. I would like to see Austin Matthews or Mitch or Willie. Willie does it sometimes, but just get pissed off and just unload the tank and throw caution to the wind and just frickin' play just insanely intense hockey and be willing to do anything to change the course of a game. That's what the McKinnons of the world do. And, everyone's comparing the guys on our team to those guys. And it's like, well, I haven't seen them do the one thing that makes them great. And that's do just that and refuse to lose. And it seems like they just kind of have the same little look on their face all game. And then the horn goes, and afterwards they're like, yeah, we were pretty close and it was good. I think we started well. And, it's just like, everyone can't believe their ears. I'm tired of that. And I haven't seen much of that this year. And I'm still high on this team. I support them. I'm behind them. It's just those goddamn Panthers, man. They just bring out the worst in them.
I believe I went on a Rosie-esque rant 2 seasons ago about acceptance of losing, where they're okay with losing. And I think the guys you just mentioned, namely Nathan MacKinnon, do not stand to losing. Like, it's just a different aura, a different feel around these guys. And I got that sense watching last night too, that, yeah, we lost, but whatever. I mean, it's tough to grasp. We're at a point where Florida just owns the Maple Leafs. I know they beat them last week. I think that hurt me the most is that they're missing so many marquee players. Sam Bennett, they're like, you take the rest of the regular season off. There's no Tkachuk, no Ekblad. Nico Sturm's been a really nice addition. Kulikov. And then the Leafs have pretty much their roster aside from McCabe, I guess Kampf, Pacioretty, and they're scratching and clawing just to stay in a hockey game with a team that's missing half their team. That's what hurts the most. But to your point, it's just the buy-in up and down the roster. It feels like every player on that Panthers team, regardless of their role, knows what they need to do to be successful in the league.
Yeah, I mean, they're the template for what it looks like. You want to get a team playing for a coach, for a system, for each other. It's that right there. The one caveat with last night is it was kind of like, it's a weird time in the season with a couple of games left. The points are here and there, and I feel strongly about who I do and do not want to play in the first round. And I don't give a shit. I understand you have to beat everyone to beat the best, but there are different things that could happen. You could play Ottawa in the first round, and Tampa and Florida could go to battle, and Tampa could come out of there, and we match up well against Tampa. And then all of a sudden you're in the Eastern Conference Finals. Like, there's different ways to go about it. And things happen in the first round. I'd rather just not face our absolute nemesis that has our number the first round. I don't think that's an odd thing to say. But with last night, there's reason for like either sides to be like, like it wasn't just like in a playoff game, it's everything, gotta win, devastating to lose. But in that one, it's kind of like, well, maybe it helps us if we don't win this one. There could have been some mental jambalaya going on where it's kind of like, maybe there was reason not to have your best stuff. And again, I don't that could bite them in the ass. They could drop the Atlantic and then end up facing the Panthers in the 2 and 3 seed, which is hilarious. But I don't know. That's the one caveat is I think maybe mentally there was reason for them not to be all there last night.
Okay, we'll go with that. But I've been conditioned not to give this team the benefit of the doubt. I really can. In support of Sick Kids, Eric Landon, thank you so much for the super chat. Rather play Sens, lack of playoff experience there. The one thing that scares me with Ottawa, the Leafs 0 for 4 against the Sens this season. The only team they've been successful against is tonight's opponent, the Tampa Bay Lightning.
Yeah, agreed. That's a little something in the tank too. But over a 7-game series, I think that they match up a little better against the Sens. It's the NHL playoffs. You're playing the top half of the NHL, and it is the NHL. All teams are pretty damn good, and all teams have a chance to win. You see upsets in the playoffs all the time, and on paper, it doesn't really mean a whole lot. It's a little more about the gumption. And unfortunately, from what we've seen from this group is that they do look good on paper, but when it's time to show your gumption, they have come up short. And obviously, I think this year they have, with Tree Living and what he's brought in, I think they look different. I think they play different. I think with Berube, some of the style of play that he's implemented, I think lends better to the playoffs. Yet to be seen, but I'm still giving them benefit of the doubt. I'm still riding high on them. I'm not bailing on them till they're done, and I got to wait and see what they have, man. I want them to dig deep and see what they got here, and it's coming up soon, so I'm excited.
It is, and maybe it's my PTSD from who they've played in the past in the Stanley Cup playoffs. We were talking about before the show, who do we want to play, and I don't want to play anybody. I want to buy. Give me a bye to the Stanley Cup final. I don't want to play Montreal. I still have PTSD. You're up 3-1 in that series. They were finished. Absolutely fucking finished. And then Alex Galchenyuk, I think, forgot that he was a Maple Leaf, played for Montreal in that shift, and the rest is history. And then you got Columbus, that series. Like, there's just been so many different teams that have beat the Maple Leafs where it's like, I don't even care to an extent who they play. I don't want to play Florida in the first round, but it's slim pickings who I actually want. But I think it just shows me, at least, why can't the Leafs be that team that go into a series and out goalie the other team, or Stolarz and Woll stand in their head and they can't solve them, and it's save after save after save, and the offense wave after wave coming at you, and they're relentless. And I think the big thing I captured last night, there was no time and space. Like, it felt like a playoff game. Why can't the Leafs be that team who plays a stifling defense. And maybe that's the hope I have for this postseason, Rosie, that it all locks in for this squad.
Yeah, I think that they can. Like, I can picture Stoli, we've talked about those 2 or 3 big saves. Like last night, Woll played fantastic, made a bunch of big saves, but he left a softie in. And like, that's a huge difference in that game. Like, A, you can't let a softie in, and then B, maybe twice, maybe once in the second, once in the third, you make that big save where it looks like all is lost and they finally penetrated and you get that chance to bury. And you don't, and it gives that team life. And then, maybe a huge shot block by Tanev or McCabe's doing something. They're playing some shutdown stuff, and they're kind of stifling the other team, making it a little bit frustrating. Then Willie goes down and like wrap around and just finds the 5-hole. And holy shit! And then they get an empty netter. They win 4-2. That other team's like, what the fuck, right? And then they're the ones that are frustrated. Why can't we solve this guy? And then say Stoli does that twice in the first 3-4 games, you win the series, and like you're rolling. Like it's that small of a difference maker to be able to flip the script on a team. And they've always been on the wrong end of it 100%. And I get the PTSD that people have, but that's very possible with this group. And I choose to think that they're going to find a way to be in control of a series. I think it's going to be a hell of a lot harder against Florida. And I would just rather them play and beat up against the Lightning and see what happens from there. And we can face the wild card. That's my ideal scenario. I know you don't get to pick it always.
I have a statistic in our stat pack here as to why I'm scared shitless about the Stanley Cup playoffs. And I'll bring that up in a couple minutes. The standings are so close, man. 1 through 5 in the Atlantic Division, now separated by 11 points. You have Toronto at 98, Tampa 96, Florida 94, Ottawa 90 after losing last night to Columbus 5-2. Montreal wins again. They win 4-1 over Detroit. They're 3 points back of Ottawa, and the Sens have been dominated by the Canadiens this season. Montreal is in Ottawa Friday, in Toronto on Saturday, man. There's just so many different possibilities of a first-round opponent. The Leafs have 5 games left, man. Parity's crazy.
I know it's crazy. You think you look at, a separation of 2 teams and it's like 5 points and you're like, oh, a nice snug one. You drop one, it's like, oh shit. And then you got a tough opponent the next night and you're like, holy crap, like they're going to be right there. And it changes quick. So I'm definitely standings watching right now and just seeing where things shake out. I think a lot of these things are going to come down to the last 2 games, maybe the last game. It is interesting. We'll see here. Tonight's a big one. I would like to see the Leafs kind of have control of a really good team playing really good hockey in the Tampa Bay Lightning and seeing if they can kind of remind everyone that they are a dominant team after, let's be honest, a pretty lackluster performance last night. They had nothing. They had nothing. Like Matthews, do you want to just take over a game? Like people are talking about you to beat fucking Ovechkin. Like where? Like when the push comes to shove and it's time to go. Look what Ovi did. Like just like a whop, just rattling them off like a joke with so much pressure on him. Just he's great. And Matthews needs to show that he's great, and he needs to just bury that goal to tie it. He needs to get the go-ahead goal in the playoffs. He needs to have a 2-1 performance in the playoffs when you're down 2-1 or whatever the case is. You need to come up big, man. And like now's the time, or they're gonna make some changes. Not Matthews, but the core's had a lot of shakes and they've done nothing. So it's a huge year for them, and I'm watching closely. And I would love nothing more than for them to show up and just kind of explode.
It's pretty wild. Remember the experimentation with Mitch Marner on the blue line? They never tried him at goalie. And watching the Leafs 6-on-5 last night, the guy made some kick saves and a beauty. So that's an excellent development. You know what's also excellent? I already got a text. We've already sold our first Now We Go t-shirt in the Nation Gear store. I got a text saying that. And I'm like, yeah, we just promoted on the show. That's why.
Hey, we love it. It's good. I like the shirts this year. Mine are on their way. They'll be here any day from our headquarters. I'm excited. We actually designed them ourselves this time. We had a little bit of input. Reminds me of Zach Phillips always, like clockwork. Now we go. After everything we're texting about with the Maple Leafs, now we go. And I like it.
We're in the chat right now.
Let's get everybody behind it. I like it. So we're selling them out. I love it. Let's keep rocking that. Jump on it, you guys. You can wear them anytime. It's not just for this playoff run.
Exactly. Playoff time only means one thing. New merch after Bleeding Blue last season. Our slogan this time around is Now We Go. And hopefully we go for a while. If you're ready to rep the team in style this spring, head on over to nationgear.ca. That's nationgear.ca right now to buy some fresh, new TLN playoff merch. So look at that graphic on your screen, Rosie. Unreal.
Gorgeous. I like it. It had input from all the boys on the TLN crew. Vicky, Zach, myself, and Nick. We love it.
The Four Horsemen. Don't forget to check out tonight's edition of the Leafs Nation After Dark with Zach Phillips. If you want to go back and check out last night's edition, both Rosie and I made an appearance on there. Another fun guest coming up today. I don't know about you. My brother was a goalie growing up. This guy was his favorite goalie alongside Martin Brodeur. John Vanbiesbrouck, now with Team USA, USA Hockey Hall of Famer as well. Going to drop by in about 15 minutes here.
I know, that's awesome. Bees are just a name that stands out big, I guess, for people of our age. I don't know, but
Yeah.
I recognize him in that Florida mask with that cat surrounding it. I think it had a red cage on it, but it wasn't a cat eye. It was like a square cage. And I just picture that immediately when I hear his name. So it'll be great to get him on the show, pick his brain a little bit, and see what he thinks about the Leafs, those cats, the game last night, and goaltending in general.
At the Leafs Nation 401 on YouTube, do us a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Leafs Morning Take, wherever you find your podcast. Make sure to leave us a 5-star review. And don't forget to visit theleafsnation.com. Think you know hockey? Play Sobeys My NHL Picks weekly for the chance to win big prizes like a trip for 4 to this year's Stanley Cup Final. A new slate of games opens up every Thursday from now until the end of the regular season. So download the Sobeys app and start playing today for your chance to win. We got 1 day left. Obviously, this Wednesday night slate, I went 3 for 5. My picks are in. I started off 3 for 3 this week, and the last 2 I just couldn't hit, as you see on your screen right now. Unfortunate.
Who'd you pick last night for the pesky Maple Dinks?
I didn't do that game. The Oilers cost me, like, you could pick winners for any game, and I usually stay away from the Leafs because they always burn me. But I probably would have picked Florida, I'll be honest. I just don't have much faith in the Leafs against the Panthers.
How about that Dallas-Vancouver game last night?
Oh, wild.
3 goals in the last minute to tie it for Vancouver and then win in overtime. I was watching that, like, that's got to be some kind of a record almost, or just something you never see for years and years and years. I couldn't help but think, like, Dallas, very good team. Pete DeBoer's face afterwards, just ready to implode. Can you imagine a team that's up there, just like Maple Leafs are up there in the league in the standings, just like the Dallas Stars? They're playing this, lowly struggling Vancouver Canucks team. They've got a 3-goal lead and they blow it in the last minute and lose in overtime. The place would melt down. But no one even talks about, oh yeah, did you see that game? Oh, interesting. Oh, that's really cool. No one talks about shit. To my point, you get away with murder everywhere else in the league, but Toronto, my God, you sneeze the wrong way and people go ballistic. It's very difficult in that market, and I'm trying to be the guy that stays a little positive going into this this playoff run, but they make it hard sometimes.
Wait, you're telling me there's not a Stars Morning Take in Dallas hosted by some guy named Lance or Trevor or Jim that's just shitting on the Leafs today, or the Stars today?
I don't know. I don't think a whole lot of Texans are tuning in for that. Maybe there is, maybe I'm wrong, but it sure as hell isn't the market in the nation like we've got up in Toronto.
Definitely isn't. In support of Sick Kids, Michael Dix, thank you so much for the super chat. One of our favorite names in the chat. Just ordered my shirt. I got last year's as well. So there's the answer to the trivia question. Who ordered the first ever Now We Go playoff tee 24-25? It is Michael Dix. There's your answer.
I love it. Thank you, dude. Keep rocking that stuff. Put it on socials. And we're actually proud of this shirt this time. So rock it with pride.
Why are you shitting on the bleed blue? I wear that to the gym all the time. Ask Zach, man. I wear that.
I believe it. Yeah, I wasn't bad. I just like this better. I like that logo with the leaf with the CN Tower in the middle. That's my favorite.
Yeah, we actually took some time to design things. But diving deeper into this game, I mentioned earlier on the one statistic that really got me going a bit, and I only noticed it after I went on with Zach last night. Did you know Matthews, Nylander, and Marner combined for 1 shot on goal, and they were combined -4? Think about that.
Fucking pathetic.
It is.
Like, honestly, man, it's pathetic. That group of talent, the 3 of them, like, JT is outshining you. He's supposed to be on the back end of a career that he's slowing down and getting his doors blown off and lost his touch and not worth much anymore. And we're going to scoop him up for $3 million after that contract. He's outshining you, like, consistently. That one shot. Like, all right, boys, before the game here, we've got the Panthers here. We want to set the tone. We're on a bit of a heater here. They are not. We want to keep this thing going. We want to send a message. We want to prove to them and to ourselves what we got. Let's come out guns blazing. We got 60 minutes here. The three of those guys look at each other, the talent just oozing out of their goddamn ears, and they muster one shot amongst the three of them, and they get ripped on 4 even strength goals amongst them, like -4. It's gross, man. Like, what? That's the problem. That's what everyone fucking hates, is those guys have put on the stage, and it's time to show your stuff, boys. We believe in you. We love you. We've seen what you can do. And it's time there. Everyone looks and the lights go on them, and they come up with one shot amongst the three of them. That is the problem right there. I don't know how they fix it. I don't know what their deal is, but that's unacceptable in my mind. And it's not like, oh, they're just not good enough. Like, we've fucking seen so many times how good they can be and how they can dominate, and the hookups that they can have with their chemistry and the talent. They can pick corners and dangle and find the seams, and they're unbelievably good at hockey. And then when you need to be good and it's time to get some guts going and play with some balls, and you just back off 3 steps to the point where all you can muster is one shot amongst the three of you. God, I'm tired of that. Like, when it matters, I'm tired of that.
I guess I should add, too, that Marner hit the post early in the second period. Doesn't count as a shot on goal, but the only official shot on goal comes off a rare giveaway, D-zone giveaway. And then you have, like, that's where you want Matthews in the slot, and he was sort of like skating away from the net, and then it was Matthew Knies on the rebound. But you're so right. When you compare the star players that the Panthers had available to them and the Maple Leafs, it's just the same old same. And that's the most alarming part about all this, is it was the key ingredients that we've seen in the past many years when it comes to the Stanley Cup playoffs. No time and space. The big boys nowhere to be found. The power play stunk up the joint. They couldn't even gain the zone last night. And it was a weak goal. Like the first goal, and I don't know what it was with Tavares or the faceoff, wasn't expecting that. After the game, he took onus for it, but Woll wasn't ready. The margin for error is so thin in the Stanley Cup playoffs. You cannot make mistakes like that, not to mention the Riley gaffe that leads to the second goal for the Panthers. But that's the part that got me watching that game. We always talk about the process. So many things stood out where I've seen time and time again in the Stanley Cup playoffs.
Yeah, margins are very thin. We talk about that. It's one little mistake. You can't let a softie in the playoffs. You can't. I mean, they let one in last night, and that's the difference maker. You're not in the game anymore. That one goal, you only score one goal. You can't afford any mistakes. Like, if your big boys can't do shit and they get one shot on net in 60 minutes of play, well, you can't let a softie in. I'll tell you that. You have to be perfect, because they're not doing anything on the other side of the puck. That's frustrating. Again, I don't want to harp on. I just can't help but think of, you look at the Colorado Avalanche, and they've got, say McKinnon and McCarr and Kushkin, and they had Ranton, and say last year in the playoffs, or just before the playoffs, they're playing their rival and they want to like set the tone and go into the playoffs in the right way. And those three come up with one shot on net in their -4. They'd sit down and go, what the hell was that? We're never going to have a performance like that again. Park it behind you and make sure it never goddamn happens again. But like, I am shocked that that's what you guys had. Like, are you here? Are you awake? Like, figure it out. Nate, talk to your crew here and figure it out. You're the leader, and make sure that never happens again. But in Toronto, it's like, well, we played pretty good and we started nicely. It doesn't seem to be the same accountability. Like, it seems like the fans are melting down, and they're just like, hey, not bad. Hey, I mean, hey, like, it's crazy. I feel that again after last night's game. But I want to park it and move on, and I want them to pick up where they left off before last night's game, and hopefully they can do it against Tampa tonight. But I just keep seeing things that are reminiscent of days past, where disappointment is just the word of the day.
They were doubled in shots, 36-18 in favor of Florida. And the other thing that got me, Toronto out-hit 43-29, which is puzzling because the Panthers had the puck the entire game. So, like, from a physical standpoint, they were nowhere to be found. The big boys nowhere to be found. The big story, Joseph Woll, I thought was great. Makes 34 saves, outshot grossly. I want to give some love to John Tavares as well. We talked about it a bit earlier on. I forgot to mention, named as Toronto's Masterton nominee. Every team has a Masterton nominee. We'll see if he makes it to the final 3 here, but it's been an impeccable renaissance season for John Tavares. 10 goals in his last 9 games here, Rosie. 7 goals now shy of 500, but he was maybe the lone bright spot aside from Joseph Woll last night.
Yeah, he was. Again, like he'll go down, he'll just force something to happen like that, right? Like, I got this. Like, I'm just gonna keep going and be relentless until it happens. And it just looks like some other guys in the team, like, look like they're just hoping. It looks like they're eyes are big and they go and they try to make a play and they hope. And it's just they hope. And it's just never good enough to get the job done against a tough opponent or a playoff series. You can't hope your way to winning. You have to force it and make it happen. And John seems to do that sometimes. And he just has that confidence or something, or will or desire. And it's just lacking in other ways. Willie's got it a lot of times. I got to admit, I guess I fall short sometimes with Austin and Mitch and again, like, people be like, oh, look at he's almost going to get 100 points maybe. I don't. Exactly. So why can't he affect change in a game? Why can't he be the difference maker in an important game? That, like, if he was a 60-point guy, then it would be a moot point. Like, okay, he's not the guy that's going to, beat a Florida Panthers in the playoffs, but he's supposed to be. He is, like, he is his talent. And just when the going gets tough, they just kind of seem to hope and get out of sync and out of their element. It's like they need it to be kind of a little bit easy for them to shine, and they got to break out of that this playoff run, man. They if it's even a run, they have to break out of that. Like, they are the difference maker. We can put the Stolarz in and get the McCabe's and the Tanevs and find the it does not matter. Like, you have to get those guys, have to be the difference makers. It's how the team's built.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. I just thought it was a really easy night for Sergei Bobrovsky, who's a future Hall of Famer, who is an elite level netminder. You could probably speak to this, how you combat that, because I thought the Panthers were just so good in their D zone. It was like one and out, never much sustained pressure for the Maple Leafs, whether it was a cycle game or getting a body in front, but they got to find a way. And we've talked about this so much in the last decade. Make life difficult, accidentally bump into the goalie, like, do something to get him off his game. I just thought it was so simple of a night for Bobrovsky. I don't know if you felt the same way.
Yeah, you have to work your bag off. You have to work and be relentless and chase that puck and get to the net and fight that guy that's trying to hold you up and get through. And, like, you're at the last minute when guys trying to hold you on a good defenseman, and you sneak through and you dive at the last minute and get that rebound, and you chase down that puck and get a stick on that D-man to keep it in the D zone. Florida did to us all night. Opening shift, the forecheck, like, beats our D-man and then coughs it up and then throws it right to the slot, and they rip a shot in the first 12 seconds. And it's like, nice. That's how it's going to go. And that's exactly how it did go. That's how you double up a team on shots. You're not going to do a whole bunch of cutbacks, and you need time and space to do all that fancy bullshit. And a good team like the Florida Panthers gives you none of that. So you have to frigging work for every shot, and pour more shots and go to the net and get a rebound. That's how the shots start to build up, and you're making Bobber move. You're making him work. You're making him tired. There's none of that. They think they're going to out-fancy him into some fancy goal, and the goals never come, man. That's not how you get it done. You have to adopt a mentality to be willing to work, and they just didn't do it last night. The Panthers did. The Leafs didn't. And the Leafs scored 1 goal because of it. And they had 0 ozone time, and they got out-checked. And they didn't do anything that it takes to be on the right side of the game. And every stat you can look at shows that. And you watch it, and it's just like, they're not trying, and they're not working, and they're not being relentless. It's just not going to happen for you. And sometimes they do it, and it looks good. But when the going gets tough and the time and space isn't there, they seem to just totally back off.
Oh,
I'm all over the place today, man. All over the place. Like, I'm getting fired up the more I think about the game. I want to be positive and ride with them, but like everything you bring up is pissing me off more and more, and it's all true.
Yeah, it's a therapy session. That's the way I view it. I think worst case scenario, we have to tee up a series of the Florida Panthers, but I really would not like to do that until at least round 2. But I was just going to piggyback off that and ask you about the onus, because we talked about this last night. I think it's an astute point. I can't sit back after this season and blame the coach. I can't blame the GM. How many times are these guys going to get a free ride when you look at this roster, and granted, maybe there's some holes in the bottom six. The blue line's fortified much better. McCabe didn't play last night. I get that. The crease is much stronger. But at some point in time, you got to point that finger in the mirror if you're a player and say, we just need to be better. If not, I understand there could be a significant change. And this is the first year I think they've come to terms with that, considering the big two guys that are free agents to be on July 1 here.
Yeah, and we'll see. We don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but yeah, I mean, the different coaches and the, I mean, you've had different styles of coaches and different philosophies on coaching, and the bottom line, we haven't seen the guys on the ice adopt the mentality that I just spoke of that turns into quality hockey, that like meaningful hockey in April and May, you know. And maybe these guys aren't, maybe it's not in their DNA. Maybe they're just not capable of doing, maybe they'll just never do it. You know how some people just, I'm not built that way. I just don't have that in me. I'm good at other things. I have my strengths here, and other things I just don't do well. And maybe what this team needs to do in order to have playoff success, these guys just don't have it. I mean, all signs point to that, right? It's not like they've never been in a playoff series and I'm just guessing. I'm going off of what I've seen, and there's a lot to look at and analyze and come to that conclusion. Can they break through that? Can they fucking manage to wrap their head around the idea that they need to do something different than what they're doing? And it might be hard, and it might be out of their comfort zone, but are you a hockey player? Are you a competitor? Are you elite? Are you great? Do you want to commit to doing that? We'll see.
In support of Sick Kids, Danny Alexander, thank you so much for the super chat. Hey, longtime listener, been enjoying mornings with Leaf Nation from the beginning. Appreciate that. I don't agree that it's Florida has their number, but rather any team that plays rough/gritty, the core four unravel. But it's Florida specific where they play each other, and the Leafs cannot do anything, man. It's like they're kryptonite.
So it's even worse. It's everybody. It's playoff hockey in general. No, I mean, and we analyze it pretty deep. I mean, you could go to the Washington Capitals for a lot of their lack of success in the playoffs, and just like, oh, and they're not built properly, and this guy, and you can't build, and Ovi needs to do this and that and whatever, and they were just no good, and everyone poo-pooed them, and they had years after years of having a really solid looking team with a lot of hope that fell short every year, and then they broke through and won the damn thing. What changed? I don't know. I honestly think it's mental. I think it's a commitment. I think it's a guys in the room just deciding that they're willing to do things that they haven't been in the past. And I 100% believe that that's the deal with this group in the Toronto Maple Leafs locker room. They have to decide that they're willing to do something they've never done before, because everything they've done up to this point, it's not even close to good enough. It might be in the regular season, and that's great, and they're good players, and man, I would love to have any ounce of any of those big boys' talent, but it's not going to get it done in the playoffs the way that the NHL playoffs work, and the way that hockey is played when it gets heavy, and when the best really get down to digging their heels in and saying, I'm going to win. What they've done doesn't get you anything. So they have to make a change and a commitment to doing the things that I had mentioned about the relentlessness, the intensity, and just the refusal to back down if they're going to do something. And I hope that they do that. But yeah, I agree with them. When the going gets tough, they seem to do the same things.
At the Leafs Nation 401, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. The following interview is brought to you by Charm Diamond Centers. Get custom ring building delivered in less than 4 weeks with the Charm Masterpiece Program and an unbeatable pricing policy. Charm Diamond Centers is proudly Canadian-owned and operated since 1972 with more than 85 locations across the country through Charm and their sister brands. For more information, go to charmdiamondcenters.com as you bring in the great John Vanbiesbrouck, U.S. Hockey Hall of Fame netminder. What's going on, John? How are you?
Good. How are you?
We're fantastic. Thanks so much for coming on the show today. We're just sifting through the game from last night. Another defeat for the Maple Leafs here against the Florida Panthers. What's your read on the Panthers? What makes that team so difficult to play against?
Well, I think they're gritty, number one. I think they dig in pretty hard, play physical, but, I mean, they have some good complementary players that stay on top of you. They got good team speed. You know, a lot of the Finns they have on that team are extraordinary. But I think their work ethic, I think Paul Maurice really has them playing a game since the time he lit them up, I think, on the bench in Toronto there last year. They've really changed and really dug in. And maybe that was a couple of years ago. I can't remember. But I really think that they epitomize, Paul and his ways and the way that he's been a great coach for many years.
Yeah, what about Bobrovsky himself in particular? I mean, I really think he was the difference maker in a series they played a couple of years ago. When he's on his game, what makes him so great?
Well, I mean, people see his reaction. He's, the save he made last year in the finals, diving over and just anticipating, turning backwards, I think shows the athleticism. But the way he reads plays, he makes things look easy. The puck sticks to him, and that today's goalie, I mean, you got to be able to hold on to pucks. You look at teams' goals against, what's the difference between, a team that's only given up 200 goals versus one that's given up 245, and probably the goaltending and how the puck sticks to them. So we know that 85% of the goals are scored right at net front, and as it should be when you arrive hard. So you got to hold hard. And I think he holds hard, and, not a lot of dirt happens around his crease.
Well, that's exactly it. And again, we're trying to break down this game last night where the Panthers outshoot the Maple Leafs 36-18. You're a former netminder, or U.S. Hockey Hall of Famer. I mean, you've done your thing in the league for a variety of years. What pissed you off when you were in the crease? Like, I thought that the night was just way too easy for Sergei Bobrovsky. How do you combat a really strong elite netminder?
Well, every coach will tell you pucks to the net. And I think, making him work, we just talked about that he holds on to pucks well and things like that, but you really have to not turn down any shots. I know, back in the day, you can say that Hasek got into everybody's head, right? Because they didn't want to shoot the puck. But I think you have to pull the trigger, especially seeing a lot of the wide angle goals that go in. It's just, you got to hit the net. And I believe that hitting a rival is probably the hardest to defend. Keeping it in his feet has been an adage that has been an age-old adage, keep it in the goalie's feet. But for him, you got to really make him work. And I believe that he's at his best, when he does see a lot of rubber and he can actually steal games. One of the few netminders that you go in thinking that, you got a chance every time he's in there. But he does have a tendency to give up some goals from wide angles, deep angles. And I think you have to keep throwing the puck at the net, not turn down any plays. The one more look for a pretty play is a killer. And with skill on Toronto, that's what happens a lot. They turn down a shot and, they're going the other way.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Toronto, they've got two pretty solid netminders, Americans this year, and Joseph Woll and Anthony Stolarz. How would you deploy those two goalies if you were the head of the Maple Leafs?
Well, it's a really good question. As everybody's heading into the playoffs, obviously we're talking Bobrovsky. It's an easy way to handle that situation. But I think when you're looking at a tandem, I think it's not as easy as you can just talk about it and say, I think we should do this. What I see in the way is that Anthony Stolarz is a great, probably one that has been the premier second goalie. I wouldn't call him a backup. He's been the premier second goalie in the NHL for a long time. And there's nobody that can come off the bench like him, handle pucks, get into the game quick. He's a great puck handler and really give you a shot in the arm. Is he the guy you should start? I would say, if you're asking me, no. I would say he's the guy that is always ready. He's a consummate pro. Let's keep him on the bench. And if we need to go to him, that's what we do. And I think with Joseph and the emergence of his game, I know he's been nicked up. I'm not sure what he's battling, but Joe's got a really strong head. and he battles hard from the get-go. And you got to hope that, a guy gets hot. And really, it's about the hot goalie and really a determined start. I mean, if you get off to a really good start and you're determined in there, you want to keep that rolling. It's not, looking at the process down the road and the result. It's staying there from the beginning, staying in the moment, and trying to keep that moment as long as you can.
Because maybe it's the market, Beezer, but I think a lot of the conversation right now is who starts game one. For me, a bigger focus is who finishes the series, right? I think we're in an environment, in an era where you're going to need both goaltenders. And I think you make a good point. I think obviously there's a higher ceiling with a guy like Joseph Woll, who's 26, who could be primed for just a career breakout in the postseason. How many guys around this age have we seen get to the playoffs? They find their light and they just go with it. Because I thought last year, before he got hurt, didn't play in game 7, Woll was starting to emerge as like an elite type level netminder, and obviously shut down due to the injury in game 7. But I think he has the higher potential, and I think you would agree with that.
Yeah, I think, both. I mean, I don't want to talk against anybody, but I really believe that, they got good goaltending. Bottom line, it's the doubt that you can't allow to creep in, right? I mean, you got good goaltending. They're going to give you a shot. I believe that Joel will probably be the starter for game 1. And, based on health conditions, they've both been battling stuff. So I think you're going to go with a healthy goalie as the starter, whoever that may be at the time. But also you got to look at how the last 5 games go this season, because you want to carry your last 5 into the playoffs, and they're very important. And I know that teams like to rest guys at this point. I'm not a believer in that. Every time you rest a guy, you come out and you're in a funk. And can't let this vacation start early, right? You got to keep it tight. You got to keep rolling, and you really have to have a tournament mentality, not a playoff mentality, because you got to have a single elimination mentality. Like, if we lose today, it could be over. And I think that you got to fight for your space hard that way. And I think, Joe has given them enough to earn that space. I think, they're strong in that position. It's a matter of, again, having a tournament mentality, I believe.
Just while we have you here, John, I'm just curious to your take on how you have seen goaltending evolve over the years and decades, and also how you feel about putting yourself in this era of goaltending.
Well, to answer the question first, I would never be put into this era of goaltending because I'm 5'9". So the small goalie they're gone. But, to really give a shout out to the goaltenders today, they're great athletes. I'm not in favor of all the ways they play and the reverse VH and I've seen goalies kick pucks into their own net just by going back to the post. I don't believe the hands are as good as they used to be, but that doesn't matter. What matters is look at how they play, look at the save percentage, look at the efficiency. And I've got a lot of affinity and like for the goaltending today. I just wish more style would be there, right? Like I would, a lot of them are playing the same way. I think over the history of goaltending, you've loved styles, right? And what, people, the epitome of that is the mask, right? But the personification of guys like Cujo and Hasek and Waugh and Brodeur and all of the greats, and you take it, like, they all had style. They all played a different way. You had to, nobody could really dump the puck in on Marty because he would play it so efficiently, so you had to dump it in on his backhand, and things, became strategy. I think all the strategies are somewhat the same. Power plays are becoming the same. So when you start looking at the goaltending position, a guy who reads plays well, like Connor Hellebuck, and has the size, is going to be a top goalie in the league for a long time.
So much swagger in that era. You're so right. Eddie Belfour is another name that comes to mind in this market too. But I wanted to ask you about Matthew Knies enjoying a breakout season. Of course, over in the States, you guys are rather familiar with Knies. And I just think it's amazing because he plays like a seasoned pro that has been in the league for 10 years, but it's only been a couple years and really enjoying a nice offensive breakout this season. And I think you look at the Maple Leafs in the postseason, Matthew Knies clearly going to have to be a big piece if they go on a deep run here.
Yeah, I mean, Matty's really emerging as a top power forward. There's very few like him that can play at top speed, arrive at the front of the net. You know, I think he surprised everybody with his fight. And, you know, I see a different type of player than what emerged coming out of, you know, Sioux City in the USHL. And then, you know, with us, we're in our COVID times, we had to use him at the Olympics, World Junior. You know, but I remember Jeff Lashel when he was at a World Junior camp that we had. He's like, "Who is this Knies kid? And if he's not on your team, I'll eat my shorts," you know, kind of thing like that. And I was like, "Boy, I better watch Knies a little bit closer." But Matty has become a different player, you know, through Minnesota. Now as a pro, I think he's used very well. You know, Chief is really doing a nice job with him. But playing with top guys, right? You got to have the ability to play with top guys. He's earned the right to be there. They like for him to go to the front of the net. And when guys are really those trackers and those drivers, they get rewarded. And we saw it back in the day with Bertuzzi and the hard guys that drive hard in the net. They get rewarded. And you know, like I think of Jamie Benn and some of his top years, like just he's a driver in that same. I mean, that's a pretty good group of people to be put in that he's a Bertuzzi type of Benn player. So, I mean, his years, and I know that they got to figure out how to pay him, but I mean, he's going to be a horse. But I see a different player. I see a different Matthew Knies. I see him as true power now.
I'm just curious what your take on Dustin Wolf is. There's a guy that's having a lot of success that certainly isn't 6'7".
No, but he plays like he's 6'7", and I think that, you know, the success he's had, you know, with their minor league affiliate, you know, every year winning and being at the top of the league. I mean, acceptance in that position is a big piece. I feel like, you know, whether he's, you know, borderline 6 feet to 6'1", but you're accepted as a top player, and then you're going to be given the opportunity to perform. And obviously, you know, I think he's had a great year. He's probably, you know, without the play of like Lane Hudson and some of the other rookies, he's probably rookie of the year. And so that says a lot. You're in with a great group of players. These are all generational players. Celebrini, Hudson, Wolf, they're going to be around for 10 years. So good for him. I'm happy for an undersized goalie, but I think, you know, the tough times come. I mean, they play a really good game. I really love watching Calgary play. They play fast. They play hard. They got a real shot. I mean, they need a little help, but I think they'd be a tough team to play because of his goaltending, and I think he's won the job. So, and I've known Dustin for a while, and the way that he preps for games is, you know, something that I took pride in doing myself. So I kind of relate to that.
You played with Chief in Philadelphia, right?
I did, and on the island.
What was that? What was that experience to have him as a teammate first and foremost?
He's the best. He's the best teammate you could ever have. He's just a genuine guy. He is who he is. I mean, people want genuine today. I think, you know, I don't know him as much as a coach, and I'm really happy for him to get these opportunities. He's earned them. Obviously, what he did with St. Louis, but I think authenticity and being genuine. As a coach today, that's number one thing. Players know the deal. They know insecurities, but Chief's the real deal because he's just himself. And, you know, I think we all love him for that. Anybody who's played with him know how much sacrifice he gave as a player. You know, it was a different time, but I also think that, you know, I remember him saying once, you know, I'll fight anybody, but I'm going to take a 2-minute instigator to go with it. So, you know, it's just that kind of mentality. Like he knows what he needs to do in order for a result to happen. And I'm thrilled for him, actually.
The most exciting time of year, John. Thank you so much for your time. This has been a lot of fun, and we'll talk soon, okay?
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
Anytime. That is John Vanbiesbrouck doing some tremendous things. And man, just a callback to our era of watching hockey back in the 2000s, late 90s. Man, Beezer was the man.
Yeah, he was. There's a lot of it's interesting what his answer about goaltending today was. Obviously, some underlying, it's poo-pooing it a little bit. Everyone's the same. Everyone plays the same boring style. And it's true. Like, but you gotta understand that they're shooting so bloody well this day and age that you have no choice but to get out there, be big, and be a blocking goaltender. But like he says, no one's got a hot. When's the last time you saw a big old blocker save or a big hot glove save? It doesn't. You just be big and it hits you. I don't think they have any other choice. And then because of that, you got to get these 6'7" goaltenders in there just to take up space. But you're talking to him and thinking about his era harkens back to a time where there was some very interesting goalies, a lot of different styles, and a lot of fun watching those guys do their thing. Cause it was, I don't know if it was more difficult or not, but it was certainly different. And like he said, every guy had their own style, which made it pretty interesting.
I thought it was unique too, as we get into the conversation about Leafs and Lightning, how he felt about the crease and how he would start Joseph Woll game one and not Anthony Stolarz. A lot of the consensus in this market specifically has been Stoli, but to me, it says something when a former goalie of the ilk of a John Vanbiesbrouck is aligned more with Joseph Woll.
Yeah, and I would normally think that, okay, he hasn't watched a whole lot this year, but I mean, he's involved in USA hockey, and both those guys are American. You'd think he'd stay up to date on them pretty well. Mm-hmm. I respectfully disagree. I just everything from the whole season has told me I don't care that he's been a number 2 goalie. Like, what do you're going to hold it against him because he didn't take Bobrovsky's job in Florida? Like, it's just not happening. Yeah. And like he said, he was one of the best number 2 goalies in the game, and now he's got the opportunity. Maybe he was slotted to be a number 2 goalie here, but I think he's outplayed Woll, and I think that his confidence is through the roof, and when he's on, which he almost always is this year, he's as good as we've got. So, yeah, it's interesting that he said that for sure. It doesn't change my mind on the fact that I think we should go with Stoli, but definitely interesting to hear.
Yeah, Vic brings up too. Carter Hutton has been steadfast in saying that it would be Joseph Woll for him too. And I think
too, eh?
Yeah, it's a unique convo, and again, I think it's a great convo. It means the Leafs have 2 qualified goaltenders, man. Like I've got no issue with it, and I actually like the fact that somebody's differing in opinion from the consensus right now.
Yeah, it's that's definitely interesting, and I respect their opinions based on they were high elite level goaltenders. So that's certainly something to think about. I just can't get away from the fact that, like last night, there was a stinker that went in, and I think there's been a lot more of those for Woll. Not that there's been a lot in general, but there's been more of them for Woll than there has for Stoli.
Agreed.
I kind of feel like you can see that Woll kind of doesn't quite have the confidence that Stoli does. Like, even he bats it out of there and gets set again. It pisses, like, he friggin' expects to stop everything, man. And I just can't help but think that if I were in charge, that's who I'd go with. But I guess we will see. It's interesting though that there is some different opinions out there.
So it's going to be Anthony Stolarz tonight, man. And this is a sneaky big game with 5 games remaining in the regular season. You win this game in regulation, you put yourself in a really good position to win the Atlantic Division crown for the first time. And I think they haven't won the division outside of the stupid the North Division during the pandemic. That was the dumbest shit I've ever seen in my life. But they haven't won the division in like 20 years. They're 2 points up on Tampa. The Lightning are on fire. This is going to be a fun game. But I will say, it gives me confidence knowing the Maple Leafs have played this team really, really strong this season in Tampa.
I know, and like we talked about when I was getting heated up, I had to remind myself that, maybe the passes that last night was kind of wonky on where the standings are and stuff. Here's one that's black and white. You want to win this bloody game. It's a 4-point game. You can give them 0 points while taking 2. And like you said, put yourself in a pretty damn good spot to win that Atlantic that they haven't done in 20 plus years. It is a huge one. And I love that the fact that they have, like, again, to my point to start the show, there's teams that, I mean, Tampa's a really good hockey team, but the Leafs have their number. It's just the opposite of the Florida Panthers and what they have with the Maple Leafs. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to look at those big boys. I'm going to look at their reaction to last night and see if, they can show us that they're great and have a huge performance and what could kind of look like a statement game, which we hoped was last night, didn't end up being, but possibly tonight leading into the playoffs as we just inch closer and closer.
Yeah, this league doesn't make sense because, for example, Montreal owns the Florida Panthers. They own the Ottawa Senators. The Leafs they own Tampa. Like it makes no sense why a team like Montreal can go in there and just beat Florida and beat Florida and beat Florida. Then the Leafs play them, and it's like men against boys. It makes no sense to me.
I think it's work ethic and desire. I think Marty St. Louis has got those guys buzzing. No one expected them. They don't have the weight of the world on their shoulders. Everyone's kind of still talking about rebuild and whatnot, but they've got some players to play above what people's expectations are, which is very difficult. And buying into a system and playing working your bag off, there's just no substitute for it, man. You're looking at it right there with the success the Canadians have had. That's what they do, and it's also why the Panthers have been in the finals twice in a row with a cup on their ring finger. So we'll see. I would love to see a real 60-minute, hard-fought, aggressive, intense performance from the Toronto Maple Leafs tonight.
KPG writes in, Panthers can beat everyone but Habs. It's time now for the crispy hot take of the day, presented by the Ninja Crispy 4-in-1 portable glass air fryer.
Meet the first of its kind, the Ninja Crispy portable cooking system. The power of a full-sized air fryer in the palm of your hand, so you can cook big or small batches. Just prep it, crisp it, serve it, and store it all in one.
Damn, that looks tremendous. It's an all-in-one system that includes 4-quart, 6-cup Tupperware glass containers and 2 storage lids. The Ninja Crispy is thermal shock resistant and can go from frozen to crispy in minutes. With the Crispy Power Pod, you get the power of a full-size air fryer in the palm of your hands. The 4-quart container fits 4 pounds of chicken or veggies. Cook a personal-sized meal in 7 minutes in the 6-cup container. Max crisp, bake, air fry, and re-crisp with the Ninja Crispy. You can prep, cook, and store anything from crispy favorites to one-dish meals. Visit their website in the link in the show description, and stay tuned for your chance to win a free Ninja Crispy. You ready for today's hot take via producer Vic?
Yeah, what's Vicky got for us today?
The loss to the Florida Panthers on Tuesday night meant absolutely nothing. That's his hot take.
Yeah, Vicky, I like that. I like it. And maybe that's because of the fact that it was kind of wonky and the standings was funky. I don't like the idea that they didn't have some of their heart and soul pieces of their team in the lineup, but it doesn't really mean anything. I mean, if anything, it makes them potentially overconfident against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Obviously, they have a template. They know what works, so that is helpful, but I don't mind the take. It's an aggressive one. It is a hot take, Vicky. I don't know if so many people in Leafs Nation would agree with it, but I love the positivity and brushing it off. I'll take it. Respectfully,
anytime somebody says respectfully, then comment, then comma, they're trying to be disrespectful. I disagree, Vic. It reinstilled to me that the Leafs cannot beat the Florida Panthers. Again, they're missing half their team. It did not matter. They buried the Leafs right off the get-go, and it's just the last team I want to see in the Stanley Cup playoffs. But a very fiery hot take, which is perfect for that segment. Right, Rosie?
That's what it's all about. Vic Arias keeps bringing them. That's what 2, 3, 4 of those. They're going to keep coming. I love it.
Breaking news coming in for Bet365, where every nail-biting overtime win is a barn burner. Every face-off, hat-trick, power play, shot on goal, penalty shot, and every suspenseful minute in between is amazing. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365, an official partner of the NHL. Download the Bet365 app and use code NATION. That's NATION, N-A-T-I-O-N, to get in on the game. Must be 19 or older, Ontario only. Please play responsibly. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem, visit ConnexOntario.ca. It's the Leafs and the Lightning. What's our standard bet when those two teams play? Do you remember?
Oh, who is it on this bloody team? I know
we just talked about Matthew Knies, man. He has played 8 career games against Tampa, 7 goals, 6 assists, 13 points, plus 10. I'm hammering Matthew Knies, ATG, point prop, everything, shot prop. It's Knies' night tonight.
Spicy, yeah, especially because he's also a guy that wasn't really there as much last night, and you would have expected him to come out with a performance. So I imagine he's wanting to rectify that. I'm leaning towards an Austin Matthews anytime goal. Time to do something. Time to show your greatness, buddy. You make $13+ million to play hockey
This
for this
is a
team.
recording.
It's time to go. It's time to go. Now we go. I got Austin Matthews anytime goal.
It reminds me of, like, we get those telemarketer calls and they all start the same. Every time we say that now is the time, Austin. At some point, the time's not going to happen. I'm sorry to say, I don't know.
We'll see. I don't know. Yeah, I know what you're saying. There's too many times you're calling for that guy to show you what he's made of, and then you got to do it again, and you got to do it again, and that's why I'm doing it here. It's a big game. It's a bounce back game. You guys did sweet FA last night, except rack up a -4 amongst you. Time to do something tonight and get this thing back on track so that, like Beezer said, it's important to be firing all cylinders going down the stretch into the playoffs there.
Need a response. Zach likes my doppelganger Nick Paul to score tonight. Unsurprisingly, Zach very dark in the chat today. I think he's got Tampa winning this game because all he's been talking about is the Leafs losing and Tampa and Toronto being tied in the standings. So there's your answer.
Yeah, we want to avoid that.
I don't know what I want to avoid at this point in time. Again, I just give me a bye until the Stanley Cup final. Then the Leafs will show up and they'll win.
How? It does get repetitive facing the same bloody teams in this Atlantic. Like, weird. The last time they won a division was when they had some made-up division made up with a whole bunch of different teams. This division's tough, man, and no exception is tonight against the Tampa Bay Lightning, but we'll see what they've got.
Zach said he's having nightmares. Hang in there, Zach. Everything's going to be okay. We're almost at the Stanley Cup playoffs. Should mention before we head out here, Michael Andlauer, the owner of the Ottawa Senators, is going to drop by the sheet later today with Jeff Merrick. So make sure you tune in for that. I was seeing some tweets earlier on today that Cyril Leader, of course, affiliated with the Senators as well, intimating that Ottawa could start Sunday or Monday. And why do I bring that up? Because we could see the Battle of Ontario. So I know I brought up a couple weeks ago that it could be the Saturday. I got some pushback on that. I don't know if it's going to be Easter Sunday. I'd probably put good money if it's the Leafs and Sens that it starts the Monday, but we'll find out soon enough.
Yeah, time will tell. That's interesting to have the owner on the sheet there. We'll tune in for that. I wonder if he will sign off the way I did last week.
Probably not. No.
Ode to you, Nikki. Did you catch that?
That was, I mean, no offense to Merrick. I love the story, but I can't be like, my nickname can't be two names. Like, that just doesn't fly in my world.
It doesn't roll off the tongue very well. That was my one thing.
Not.
It doesn't. It's not catchy enough. But I went with it at the peril of you. I apologize.
No, it's all good. And I was laughing too. We did like a whole show last week where I said the word penultimate 32 times, saying this is the penultimate home game of the season, and it fucking wasn't. And nobody in the chat said anything, but they got two home games.
It's usually me butchering some stat like that you have to call me out on. Usually on top of that, so a rare miss from you, but
yeah,
I respect the fact you can call yourself out.
Is there a word for like the third to last home game of the season? Then I would have been right.
I didn't even know penultimate meant second last, so I don't know what third last is.
Okay, that's going to do it for today's podcast. Hopefully we're in better spirits, but this is a pretty good therapy session. I honestly feel like it helped both of us going on the Leafs Nation After Dark last night with Zach Phillips. Got everything out of the way. We're a bit more positive today, looking ahead to the Stanley Cup playoffs, looking ahead to this matchup with Tampa. Thank you to John Vanbiesbrouck for dropping by the show. By the way, tomorrow, former Maple Leaf, now with First Up, TSN 1050, Carlo Koliakovo is going to drop by. We're going to get his thoughts on the recap here of this Leafs Lightning game. So looking forward to that tomorrow, Rosie.
Ooh, that's fun to say. Carlo Koliakovo.
Coco.
Looking forward to it.
Coco knows best. That's coming up tomorrow. For now, bid you farewell at the Leafs Nation 401. Hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Don't forget, playoff merch now out. Now we go. NationGear.ca. Buy right now. Thank you to producer Vic. For Jay Rosehill, I'm Nick Alberga. Talk tomorrow. Take care.
Now we go!
Make sure to check out more of our content right here on the Leafs Nation YouTube page. We got long-form interviews. We got clips. We got epic rants by Jay Rosehill. We simply have it all. And don't forget, you can find out much more at theleafsnation.com. Thanks so much for watching.